Welcome to SVG-TV News for Friday, April 8th, 2022. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. The Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit in the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force kickstarted its 10th anniversary celebration last evening with a virtual lecture. Delivering opening remarks, head of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit, Assistant Superintendent of Police Junior Simmons, said that over the past 10 years, the unit has done tremendous work in raising awareness about human trafficking.
We have trained thousands of employees, both in the public and private sector. We have investigated numerous suspected cases of human trafficking, and we have built partnerships in the fight against human trafficking, because in this line of work, partnerships and cooperation is very important. 10 years later, I can proudly report that the ATIPU is a purpose-driven, vibrant, and very effective unit within the constabulary. Our mission statement is to prevent, protect, and offer a safe haven to victims of human trafficking and vigorously pursue and prosecute the offenders of such acts.
Also addressing the opening ceremony was a Deputy Commissioner of Police, Frankie Joseph, who congratulated the unit on achieving its 10th anniversary milestone.
The ATIPU is one of the units that fall directly under my supervision. And I can safely say that although the unit is small in size, it has done a commendable job since it was formed in 2012. Congratulations are therefore in order to SP Simmons, Corporal Dopwell, and Constable Joseph for their dedication to duty and for efficiently executing the functions of the unit.
Joseph said with the number of sensitization programs about human trafficking in SVG, a lot more people are now able to identify the signs and encourage members of the public to continue to assist the unit and the SVG police force by reporting any suspicious acts of human trafficking.
It takes your effort and that of your neighbor as well. So please do your part in sharing whatever information you may have about any type of crime that may be happening in your community. And it is not only with human trafficking, any crime that is taking place in your community, we need you on board to call the police. And remember, when you call, the police who is answering that telephone is not supposed to ask you your name, nor your telephone number, nor your address, because the content of the information is what we want. That is important.
The virtual lecture last evening was delivered by Dr. Jason Haynes, who spoke on the topic Human Trafficking in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, confronting the past, preparing for the future. Dr. Haynes said human trafficking is the fastest growing crime worldwide, which affects everyone.
Now, these persons come from all quarters of life and society. Those persons who are identified as victims of trafficking have traditionally been women, but more and more across various societies, we're seeing men being trafficked, but also children being trafficked. Now, interestingly, the statistics seem to suggest also that both men and women are implicated in trafficking in persons. And in fact, in many instances in the Caribbean and by extension abroad, we have seen many women get involved in the trafficking enterprise. And as a result, many of them have been convicted in various jurisdictions. And so we certainly have a situation in which no one is exempt from trafficking as potentially a victim as such. And certainly no one potentially can be exempted, I think, from the prospect of being a perpetrator.
The senior lecturer highlighted the various types of human trafficking, including trafficking for sexual exploitation.
Also, increasingly what we have seen is trafficking for domestic servitude and forced labor. Now, in many jurisdictions as well, we've seen trafficking for the removal of organs, as well as for unlawful or illegal adoption, and in some instances as well, forced marriage. So we have a wide gamut then of activity that can constitute trafficking in persons. And it is essential, therefore, that we continue to have these discussions that we're having, because invariably, international law, but also our domestic law, as we'll come to learn a bit from now, require that we appropriately address all elements of trafficking in persons. And indeed, reference has been made earlier to the 3Ps approach, and that is an approach that the international community has countenanced with respect to combating trafficking in persons.
Dr. Haynes further pointed out that human trafficking is not unique to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as it touches all jurisdictions across the globe. He concluded the lecture by presenting different factors that exposes trafficking in persons. Over the past 10 years, the unit has investigated over 40 potential cases of human trafficking of persons. However, only one of those cases had the evidence to be tried in a court of law. In other news, 5 days later, one body has been recovered and the bodies of the remaining crew members are said to be still inside the submerged SVG-registered cargo vessel MV Fairchance. The vessel overturned in Trinidad waters last Saturday. One of the two men who survived the incident spoke with CNC3 News in Trinidad, and as we hear in this report, he believes the TNT Coast Guard could have saved the others, including 3 Vincentians.
Underneath this vessel, divers recovered the body of Quincy Batiste. He was one of the 5 crew members of the MV Fairchance after tragedy struck on their journey to St. Vincent last Saturday. And there's confirmation by divers that the bodies of 4 others are also trapped under the vessel. The MV Fairchance, which is still overturned, was towed into Chagaramas by the Coast Guard. One of the men who was rescued spoke to CNC3 News, Darrell Small, who has been actively involved in the operations to rescue his crew members, recounted what happened last Saturday.
The water was very bad, and then the cargo list on the side, and then eventually it flipped.
The vessel floated 35 miles off Margarita in Venezuela before it was towed back on Tuesday. This is when Darrell Small, the other survivor, Jonel McIntosh, private divers and the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard jumped into action. He said the other crew members were resting and that is why they were unable to surface. The St. Vincent National believes the men could have been saved.
Could have been better, you know what I mean, if the government here had been put a faster step to it. I believe we could have get live bodies, because the boat was floating up. We bring the boat from, say, 10 miles off of Margarita. Here, it cost 2 days to reach here, and then on the 3rd day, they sink the boat over us and air pocket gone. So there's no hopes about living person now.
He thanked the private divers, who he says gave him hope for the families back in St. Vincent.
I find the Coast Guard, the guys slack, because bringing private divers, they're much more better than the Coast Guard. I feel more happy than what the private divers do, because coming today, the private divers find a body, feel good about that, they see about the next one, still feel good about that.
He says this ordeal will not prevent him from returning to the ocean, but he was thankful to survive to tell the story.
Blessing of the Most High, yeah, he's the one who are the poor one, I mean, he's here make I be here today. So I say the blessing of the Most High is real.
The search and recovery operations continue tomorrow. Otto Carrington, CNC3 News.
And today, Friday, April 8, 2022, marks another significant milestone in the history of the SVG Coast Guard services, as 12 officers successfully completed the RSS Basic Seamanship course. Corporal Colonel Bertillion Hamilton encouraged the new graduates to stay focused on their goals and reiterated the SVG Coast Guard services stands to always work as a team player.
This specific training has empowered you to respond to emergencies. Some of your response will include saving persons in distress, mainly mariners, interdicting illicit activities, as well as responding to a myriad of unanticipated situations. You understand that it is strategically critical that the organization be and remain always ready to respond when called upon. At all times, remember that training operates on an entire continuum. Therefore, be lifelong learners. Constantly seek out opportunities for educational advancement to obtain your first degree, your master's, and your doctoral certifications. The RSS stands ready to work with you. Always be a team player and look after your health and safety.
The Deputy Commissioner of Police, Frankie Joseph, said that between the COVID-19 pandemic and the eruption of La Soufrière volcano last year, the training programs were affected, but they were able to take advantage of the opportunity for local training. He said although the course named Basic Seamanship course, upon reviewing the outline of the coursework, the work was as intense as other training courses.
The COVID-19 pandemic and the explosive eruption of the La Soufrière volcano presented many challenges and also opportunities. These events affected our training program somewhat, but we pivoted and used the opportunity to organize our local training with input from our regional partners like RSS. I want you to know that although this course is called a basic course, there is nothing basic about this training course. Because based on the outline that I have seen, this course was as intense and comprehensive as any other training course. And it was so tailored because we want you to be able to execute your duties with optimum efficiency at all times.
Welcome, and this evening in our Rise from the Ashes series, we hear that Vincentians will be marking the one-year anniversary of the explosive eruption of La Soufrière volcano tomorrow, April 9th, 2022. On April 8, 2021, disaster management officials issued the mandatory evacuation notice for residents in the red and orange zones, and 20,000 people were evacuated to safety in private homes and government shelters. Countries in the region and abroad rallied around SVG, providing donations of food, water, and other supplies. 3 months after the eruptions ended, the all clear was given, and residents were able to return home to commence a massive cleanup effort. The island continues its recovery and rebuilding effort. There are still 76 persons who are being housed in 7 shelters. Government has said that by the end of the year, all displaced persons will be housed in new homes. And on an API program this morning, Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, Michelle Forbes, expressed how emotional she felt upon the realization in April 2021 that the volcano was about to erupt.
That I got emotional is that before, when the volcano went into its effusive phase, one of the first things that you do is to look at your gaps and your resources that you would need to manage an emergency of this nature. And to know that you would have ordered you were short of certain things, and to order them, and you see it unfolding in front of you, the eruption is happening, and you do not have certain things in stock to meet the needs of the populace. I think that was for me, that was the saddest part of the entire operations, because I knew what would unfold, and there was nothing I can do about it. You know, it's like, it's not a bit of helplessness, but, you know, you just feel like, you know, this is going to happen and it's going to spiral until you can get that settled in. You know, imagine imagine that, you know, you have maybe under 3,000 cots in country, and you know the shelters are going to be packed, and that's all you have, and you couldn't get it anywhere in the region because of the break in the supply chain. Right. Not only in the Caribbean, around the world. And they were telling you 6 months. When the orders were made through the Ministry of Finance, they were saying 6 months before you can get those. So I think for me that was not overwhelming, but at that point, I you know, because there are people who have to leave their homes, and, you know, they were coming, and you did not have certain things that, you know, you tried your best to get ahead of time.
Forbes said that to mentally escape from all that was happening around her, she took a short time to silence the noise.
I didn't tell anybody. I actually escaped on the 12th. I remember that. Richie had called and said they wanted the Coast Guard to come down. And I didn't tell anyone. I just went and I jumped on the Coast Guard and I sat down. Nobody could have reached me, and I went down on the coast. Saw the volcano erupting, and I saw, you know, that photo you have with all the ash on Fitzhughes. I was the one who actually took that photo, and I sat there. And then when I came back to the meeting, we had the AOC meeting the NEC meeting that afternoon, and I just sat there because that was my way of clearing. Because there's some, after the mechanism kicks in place, there's only so much you can really do, and things have to fall in place. And that's why it's important that every agency of government, every arm of government must be okay with the procedures and know exactly what their role and responsibilities within the whole national framework.
Right. Forbes noted that NEMO is not a one-man operation and gave credit to the entire operation team, whom she said worked very hard before, during, and after the volcanic eruption in April 2021.
I mean, I think I tend to work very well under pressure. I don't know how I stay calm sometimes. Not that I'm not boiling, you know, but it is not Michelle Forbes alone that is doing this, because we only have 19 staff. I don't manage the shelters in terms of physically doing. I don't go to the port to get the stuff. We have teams, we have units, we have agencies who have been trained to do these tasks. So the Ministry of Education will come and actually take over the shelter operations, guide that process. Only if there's a problem, it really comes to me.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines is known to have 2 seasons annually, a dry season that stretches between the months of January to April and the rainy season between June to November. The rainy season last year was patched, and with the island now in the midst of yet another dry spell. Senior Agriculture Officer with the Ministry of Agriculture, Karamo Brown, says that the ministry anticipates complaints to start coming in from farmers across SVG.
Complaining as yet? Well, in most areas, but within the next few weeks, you would start hearing the complaints, given that if you plant crops now, it's going to get, you're going to be challenged in terms of maintaining them, because you'd have to start thinking about where am I going to get water. And it's not just the crops that you have to worry about. You also have to worry about the livestock, in particular like chickens. If it gets too hot, if they don't get enough water, then your egg production starts falling off. That's another problem. I mean, eggs are currently...
Brown said that although the ministry has been playing an integral part in distributing seedlings in the various communities, they are concerned about the watering of plants.
We should have embarked on a number of programs. We delivered seeds to farmers, But the challenge is still these crops getting adequate water, because a lot of our vegetable production is also targeted on coastal areas. So without the adequate amount of water, we will not get our true potential from the production.
Brown also used the opportunity to share valuable advice to farmers, which will help them to better get through these dry times.
Into the dry season, we normally would advise farmers, do your mulching, do your composting. Now with mulching, you could do plastic mulching, or you could use your vetiver grass or the grass, seedless grass types. Now the reason behind the mulching is that it helps to retain moisture in the soil, which is critical around this time. We'd also advise farmers, according to your crop type, let's say you're planting vegetables, plant them closer. What it does, it reduces your transpiration rates. Along with mulching, we also have to look at watering, irrigation as one of the alleviating factors going forward, given that with the irrigation system, you tend to ensure that your crops have sufficient water. Now, for livestock farmers, going into the dry season, we tend not to focus on animals as much, but it's also important for them to ensure that animals have water throughout the duration of the dry season. Particularly your small ruminants, your cattle, as well as your chicks, both broilers and layers.
Farmers are key to food security and they play an important role in helping to reduce food import bill. With this in mind, Senior Agriculture Officer Marcus Richards said the ministry is recommitting its efforts to support farmers across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He was at the time addressing a meeting for farmers in Region 2 on Monday. With the increased price on fertilizers, Richards said they are encouraging farmers to focus more on compost.
We have recognized that inputs, food costs, everything, it's going up. And the current conflict that we all are aware of is not making matters any better. And we can assume that prices would continue to soar. And so therefore you have a very, very pivotal role to play in ensuring that our local food needs are met. So I would encourage you to keep producing. We at the Ministry of Agriculture and the Extension and Advisory Services Division, we are here to provide all the necessary support within our ambit.
Chief Agriculture Officer Renato Gum spoke of the support provided to farmers, noting that the Extension Services Unit in the Ministry of Agriculture is expected to provide farmers with the relevant tools to be more efficient.
I expect the Extension Service to provide you with the technology to be a very efficient producer. I am hoping that the Extension Service focuses on making you a better farmer, a more efficient farmer. I don't expect the Extension Service or the Extension Officer to know everything. He might come across a disease problem which they're not familiar with. But there are supporting institutions within the ministry that can provide that kind of support. I want to move on to some things. We are now coming out of a volcanic eruption. On the back of that. And we suffered significant damage and loss. And the government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, has been trying to provide support to farmers.